Welcome back to the deep dive. Sometimes the most compelling story isn't the one about the blockbuster success.
Right.
It's about the impossible, almost tragic ambition that comes before it.
A creative vision that was so huge, it nearly collapsed under its own weight.
Exactly, and in collapsing it left behind something just utterly unique.
That is precisely the narrative we found in the sources you shared with us. We're not just analyzing a game today, we're really dissecting the DNA of this sprawling online horror experiment that was, years ahead of its time.
Today, we are diving deep into the development, the lore, and the characters of Resident Evil Outbreak. For so long, the franchise story belonged to the elites. Jill Valentine, Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield.
Super cops.
Yeah. But this deep dive, this is for the true Raccoon City. The ordinary citizens, the unsung heroes whose vulnerability is what made the horror feel so profoundly real.
And our mission here is to uncover the vast scale of what they originally planned and why, even in its smaller final form, Outbreak really stands as this extraordinary capsule of ambition and raw human courage.
A portrait of people just improvising their way through the apocalypse. Okay, let's unpack that ambition first, because the scale of the original project, I think it was codenamed Biohazard Online, then Biohazard Network. It was truly staggering for the early PlayStation 2 era.
Oh, it was an audacious starting point. And the whole concept, as the story goes, didn't come from some big market study.
No.
No, it came from a simple observation after Resident Evil 2. Developers just noticed that when they put a few players in one chaotic scenario, these natural cooperative behaviors started to emerge.
So some people would just hoard everything for themselves.
Yeah, but others would instinctively try to help their colleagues survive.
And Studio One just ran with that. They decided to take that organic behavior and build an entire world around it.
We're talking about a multiplayer survival horror game with RPG elements, alternate routes, multiple endings, even cutscenes where your character could still move around freely.
That combination of live multiplayer and dynamic movement inside a cinematic moment, it's almost laughably grand for the PS2.
It really was. And to make Raccoon City feel cohesive, the team reportedly took, get this, over 40,000 photos of real locations for reference.
40,000. That just shows the level of commitment to the detail, to the environment.
And they weren't planning just a handful of missions. The original development documents show they were planning for 18 distinct scenarios to cover the city's collapse.
18? Think about that scope.
And the technical innovation they wanted was huge. Enemies like the zombies were designed to move freely between rooms, to actually pursue you.
So no more just closing a door and feeling safe.
Exactly. It was a radical departure from the traditional Resident Evil formula, which, it relied on enemies being in specific static rooms.
That dynamic threat was supposed to be the core identity, this real-time, unpredictable horror. But wait a minute. If the vision was so clear, and they had documented the city with 40,000 photos, where did it all go wrong?
They ran directly into a brick wall of reality. The sources detail this sort of trifecta of technical collapses.
Okay.
First, the size limit of the DVD format that just couldn't fit that much content. Second, the differences between BL and NTSC systems caused all these unforeseen networking issues.
And the third factor, I'm guessing the most critical one for an online game?
The lack of a proprietary server infrastructure.
Yeah.
They just couldn't handle the scale of the online world they envisioned.
Yeah.
They had to scrap the massive RPG elements and severely limit the scope.
So instead of 18 scenarios?
Only 5 made it onto File 1. And apparently they were edited together in this furious rush just to meet the deadline.
And scenarios like Flashback and Eliminator were just pushed to the sequel or shelved completely?
Yeah. It's fascinating. Like, the game we think of as ambitious is actually just the residue of a far grander, failed vision.
But even with those cuts, what survived was the most granular street-level view of how Raccoon City actually fell.
Right. And moving into the narrative, the lore makes it super clear how the outbreak really started.
This wasn't some sudden bomb drop. It was a silent spread. The sources confirmed the T-virus was released into the sewers right after that confrontation between Hakar and William Birkin.
And this is where the contamination chain becomes so chillingly believable. Rats and cockroaches. They drank the toxic sewage. The infected rats became dominant, and they forced the smaller creatures, especially the roaches, out of the sewers and up into the city.
And they weren't just on the streets, were they?
No, those infected bugs invaded the city's main water reservoir. They contaminated the source for millions of people. It was a slow biological leak that just poisoned the entire system from the bottom up.
And the stage for all this human disaster is set on September 24th. Instead, a totally normal place. Jay's bar.
And the narrative immediately shifts away from the military, away from stars. The focus is just on 10 common people, gathered there, completely unaware that their world is about to end.
These non-heroes are defined by their flaws, their ordinary lives. You've got Kevin Ryman, the ex-cop. He was rejected by stars twice.
And that rejection fuels everything he does. He just wants to be useful. But on this night, he's just drowning his sorrows in whiskey.
He's trying to apply police protocol in a world where you can't arrest monsters.
Exactly.
Mm.
Then there's Mark Wilkins, the 52-year-old security guard, a Vietnam vet. He's there with his friend Bob, but you can tell he's carrying these deep emotional scars.
And Jim Chapman, the subway worker.
Ah, Jim. He's prone to panic. He screams. He hides.
But he loves crossword puzzles, right? A man of logic.
He is, but he handles every hard decision with a coin flip. It's this perfect symbol of his need for precision, meeting total irrationality.
Then you have George Hamilton, the surgeon. He's calm, cooperative.
But he's got a secret. He studied virology in college with a man named Peter Jenkins, a name that becomes crucial later on.
And Cindy Lennox, the waitress. She's such a great example of a mundane skill becoming vital.
Her hobby of cultivating medicinal herbs, a simple skill that ends up saving lives over and over again.
And finally, the two who really hold the keys to the future. First, Alyssa Ashcroft, the investigative reporter.
She's only 28, but she's been chasing the truth about umbrellas since 1993. When the chaos erupts, she is tragically not surprised at all.
And Yoko Suzuki, the quiet one.
A former umbrella researcher. She seems like a student, but she's burdened by suppressed memories, by trauma. Her brilliant analytical mind is her main survival tool.
And the catalyst for all of their immediate chaos.
Is a pale, lifeless man stumbling into the bar. Will, the cook, goes over to help and gets violently bitten on the neck.
And the panic is immediate. Mark's friend, Bob, collapses, and he turns. He's the first casualty they have to flee from.
And so the scenarios begin. This is where we see their ordinary skills tested in these extraordinary ways.
First up, right after the bar, is the RPD barricade.
The group escapes, and they meet Raymond Douglas, the RPD's interim chief. It's just a moment of pure desperation.
He's trying to organize a barricade with cars.
A fragile one.
Yeah.
And the horde breaks through almost instantly. Douglas makes a choice. He sacrifices himself, buying them seconds, and yelling at them to use an oil tanker to burn the area so they can escape into the sewers.
And that must just hit Kevin Ryman so hard. He wants to be the star's hero, but he's watching a regular, exhausted cop make the ultimate sacrifice where his own protocol has just failed.
Absolutely. The RPD is just collapsing around them, and their only option is to run underground.
Okay, so they're in the sewers. Next up is the hospital horror scenario.
This is where the game gets really creative with its monsters. Cindy, George, and David find refuge, but they meet this Dr. Hirsch, who is then absorbed by these creatures.
To create the Lich Bin.
This massive, repulsive thing. And what stands out is how they fight it. They don't have grenades or rocket launchers.
So what do they use?
Blood transfusion packs. They use them to distract the monster. It's pure, desperate ingenuity, and it's driven by George's medical knowledge.
And the final kill is just as complex. They have to lure it into a thermal experiment chamber, right?
Yeah, they set the heat high, then low, just to grab a level 2 access card. It's not about overpowering the creature. It's about outthinking it.
It perfectly suits this cast of just common people.
And the danger is relentless. After the Lichmen, they have to face the massive, pulsating queen liquor hive in the sewers just to get through. It really is a fight for every inch.
After that, it's the Apple Inn Inferno. The hotel becomes a fiery death trap.
And this is where Cindy's role really comes to the fore. Her knowledge of herbs isn't just for wounds anymore.
It's for treating severe burns.
She basically becomes a triage nurse, just because she has this practical, life-saving knowledge.
And what about Jim Chapman here? Surrounded by fire, he's the one panicking.
But that honesty, that refusal to pretend he's some hardened hero, is what makes him so relatable. He's the stand-in for the audience, you know? Forced to rely on the competence of people like Mark, the silent security guard.
They confront that grotesque hybrid creature, the Suspended.
But the ultimate point of the scenario is their reliance on the outside world. They don't save themselves.
The firefighters arrive.
Exactly. City firefighters manage to carve an exit. It shows they need help. They aren't self-sufficient heroes.
And the final major scenario is the university. This is George Hamilton's moment.
It's his tragic leadership moment. He leads a group to the campus, following a note from his old colleague, Peter Jenkins. But they find Peter dead.
Not a zombie bite, a clean gunshot wound to the neck.
which suggests more than just monsters are involved here. Peter was working on the daylight antiviral, the cure, so the survivors immediately pivot to completing his work.
But this isn't just a simple fetch quest. They need three very specific components.
Exactly. They need P-base, which is this ancient viral essence guarded by hunters. They need V-poison, collected from these creatures called Vestas.
And most importantly,
They need T-blood. And they have to get it directly from the experimental tyrant, codenamed Thanatos. They have to fight the ultimate bioweapon to create the cure.
and during this chaos, UBCS mercenaries are there, and that's where the betrayal happens. Nikolai Zinovi is on the scene.
Yeah, and when the scientist behind Thanatos, Greg Miller, shows up and reveals his responsibility for all this, Nikolai just assassinates him. Cold blood.
Then he activates bombs all over the campus and just vanishes.
It's chilling. It proves the corporate conspiracy is just as dangerous as any monster.
So with the campus exploding, the group synthesizes the daylight antiviral. George's science and Yoko's analysis coming together.
And their final confrontation is with the mutated super tyrant Thanatos.
And they don't defeat it with guns.
No, they have to inject the antiviral directly into the creature, destroying it from the inside out before escaping in a helicopter as the university is just leveled.
When we step back, what connects all of this to the bigger franchise? It has to be their vulnerability.
Absolutely. They aren't super soldiers. They're just common people improvising, failing, and showing this profound humanity.
And the gameplay was designed to reinforce that interdependence. Outbreak really defined co-op horror with a few key innovations that made sure nobody could go it alone.
The limited inventory is critical. You just can't carry everything. You might have the key, but someone else has the only pistol, and a third person has the healing herb.
It forces you to trade, to rely on others.
And the virus meter is genius. It adds this constant intimate pressure. The danger is literally running through your veins.
If it hits maximum, you either die or worse.
You turn into a playable zombie online, and you
Mhm.
might end up attacking your former teammates.
The dynamic threats also upped the unpredictability. Enemies opening doors, chasing you across areas. You had to strategize.
And with no integrated voice chat, teamwork relied entirely on these quick preset commands. It demanded hypervigilance.
But I think the most profound contribution this game made, the thing that really elevates the story of these ordinary people, it's the optional
The
sacrifice.
ultimate acts of humanity.
You have Kevin and Jim. They choose to face the returning Thanatos. Kevin just raises his pistol, choosing to fight to the end. He finally becomes the protector he always wanted to be.
Then there's Mark and David. They know they're infected, so they take control of an abandoned tank and just fight their way through the city, unwilling to risk anyone else.
They choose a warrior's isolation.
And the most poignant one might be George and Cindy, the doctor and the waitress. They just embrace in silence in the university courtyard, accepting their fate.
They refuse to carry the virus beyond the city's burning walls. They choose responsibility over their own survival.
And critically, Alyssa and Yoko. They know the bombs are coming, but they use Yoko's laptop to upload all the evidence against Umbrella. Names, proofs, formulas, everything.
It's a final, desperate act of journalism before the end. So this deep dive really shows you that Outbreak succeeded not by empowering its protagonists, but by stressing their flaws, their limits, which made the horror and the cooperation feel so real.
Their strength wasn't in limitless ammo or combat training. It was in the repeated, often stumbling gesture of human courage and empathy. Their small names and ordinary jobs, they ground the entire apocalypse in a reality we can understand.
And the story ends for so many of them in silence. They choose death to protect the living, but the sources make it so clear that Alyssa's sacrifice, that final upload, it ensured the truth lived on.
Her legacy continues through her daughter, Grace Ashcroft. She grows up with the echoes of a mother who refused to let the truth be buried, and she becomes an FBI technical analyst. The fight continues.
So the true horror, then, isn't just the monsters, it's the corporate silence that tries to bury the truth and erase accountability. The story of Outbreak reminds me that even if the heroes don't get a grand, glorious survival, their individual choices, their acts of protection, sacrifice, and truth-telling can leave a lasting impact. What other stories, like Alyssa's, are waiting to be uncovered in the shadows of Raccoon City, ensuring that the forgotten names are finally remembered?